Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel's Friday night stream. In the midst of the wonderful, disastrous, to talk about a disastrous week we've been having is a bit odd because really, it's not like that distinguishes it, to be honest with you. I mean, disaster is kind of what has characterized the past couple of years, almost without exception. And so, as one does in time, as one watches society fall apart in real time, I suppose we're going to play some Geoguessr just to get started. Okay. This looks kind of tropical, possibly? I don't know, it doesn't. I don't know what I'm talking about there. The buildings... Let me see. Okay, we've got these narrow streets. That sign on there, that sticker really doesn't tell me anything, but let's see, we've got Danger, High Voltage, King Albert Park. Okay, someplace English speaking, someplace that's been colonized by England at some point. And I still feel like this is south of the equator. Hello, Mask of the Red Death. Good to see you. King Albert Park. Yes. Yeah, these houses do look like they must belong to the top pricks. Yeah, I was thinking Singapore. Veolia. I can't see that brand without thinking BDS. Although they did eventually pull out of Palestine. More King Albert Park. Okay, this looks posh. Yeah. Yeah, my feeling is Singapore as well. Though I'm not finding anything that's strictly... Wait, telephone numbers. SG, Singapore. There we go. Okay, King Albert Park in Singapore. How many of them can they possibly have? Ah, there we go. Singapore. Western Water Catchment, Bukit Batok. Yes, but big enough to have two different King Albert Parks? I have my doubts there. Hong Kong, Bukit Batok, Jurong Town Hall. Midview Building. Yeah, they managed to get a lot into a small area, that's for sure. A street name that says what I and many others probably think every time one of these Silicon Valley bros comes out and says that they've... Oh, yeah. When they announce that they've invented the vending machine. Tech? Why? Oops. Ah, it happens to us all. Jalanchintela. Takeda Manufacturing. Admiralty Park. What? Canberra. That's like the first time I've ever seen anything named after Canberra outside of Canberra. Well, it's just not that. It's not that exciting a city. Estuary. Oh, with the right kind of salsa, it can be a meal, but yeah, probably. Rainbow Center. Helicopter Simulation Center. We haven't got helicopters, but we can make you believe that we do. Live firing range. The Singapore Turf Club. That's where people in Singapore go to talk about gender ideology. Long day. And how's my audio, by the way? You hearing me okay? Oh, come on. Woodlands Waterfront Park. West Coast Park, Queenstown. Oh, come on, there must be... Hey, Phoenix, good to hear it. How are you? Trying to find King Albert Park here in Singapore. And finding every park other than King Albert Park. An OBS jetty, so that's where all their streamers go. The sensory trail, that sounds kind of interesting. Basic Military Training Center, Scabbard. Hey, Hail Satine, good to see you. I love how, in Italian, orto means a garden or an orchard. Whereas in Spanish, particularly in Argentina, it means asshole. So every time you see lots of restaurants in Italy called l'orto, or just orto. And, I mean, if you spend any time in Argentina, it's really hard not to just giggle like a dickhead, because it sounds like they named their restaurant Asshole. Ah, hell, this is taking forever. .7 miles. Okay, we are in something that initially strikes me as North American. Somehow it looks less North American now. Can't completely explain why that would be, but that's where we are. Oh, hold on, does that? Yeah, I mean, the yellow stripes on the street make me think North America, but there's something about the way that these driveways are laid out that made me start thinking otherwise, but thinking southwestern. This looks like it's summer and they clearly aren't getting a whole lot of rain. It is an area inhabited primarily by horses, is what I'm getting from these fences. Okay, yeah. Those look like US-style mailboxes. Can't make those out just yet. Let's move in a little bit closer. This is a secured area. Geoguessr Rural Water Supply Corporation. Geoguessr. Well, that could actually be... I mean, my immediate thought there is... it was Alabama, because there are lots of names that have that kind of rhythm to them, but Geoguessr could also be Spanish, meaning, like, tendency to jam. Watch for water on road. Not seeing any, which is, I suppose, good. Ah, come on. Give me something more than that water company. Yeah, this is a sunny place. All these arrow signs there are very worn. The paints clearly had sunwear. So I'm still moving in the direction of southern, maybe southwestern. And of course, oh yeah, speed limit. Yep, we're definitely US. No other country does them like this. Road closed when flashing. This could be Florida, actually. They're concerned about flooding, clearly. Possibly... what do you reckon about Florida? I'm thinking, judging... they're worried about flooding. That doesn't sound southwestern. Hey, Adam, how are ya? That does not sound southwestern to me. A potentially Spanish place name. That could be Florida. Or surrounding areas. Yeah, that's where I was leading, but I'm trying to find... well, let's see. Let's just have just a random look at Florida on the map. And see if we find a place called Geoguessr. Felda, Montura. Could be Pahokee, Palm City, Fuckhead Ridge. Ah, link spam. That's how we know the stream has really... oh, interesting. The link spammers with Russian names are no longer... I seem to have stopped using Cyrillic characters to write their names. Maybe because It takes more time to block them if people don't think they're somehow associated with something Russian. Poor Russian origin link spam bots. They didn't cause this mess. Micanopy, Red Dick, Cross City, Fish Creek. Jacksonville. Aw, well, hopefully that's productive. Only things I know about Jacksonville, or theoretically might know about Jacksonville, I know from The Good Place. Niceville. That sounds like a town in a 1950s educational propaganda film. Miramar, Rosemary. We are apparently close enough to the water, wherever this place is, to worry about flooding. Ocala. Belbin, Sebastian, Felsmere, yes, exactly. Duval? Yeehaw Junction. Okay, now that's a parody name. Frostproof. Yeah, I reckon Florida in general probably is frostproof. Ah, Clearwater. Home of Xenu, the warrior princess. Oh, come on. Okay, we gotta get something better. Jim Rome also doesn't. Okay, what is your guess on here? I've been to Florida, but all I saw was the inside of Sanford Airport. So I don't know shit about Florida vegetation, except that it has alligators and armadillos in it. Florida is where I learned a valuable lesson about airlines, namely which ones not to fly with. Is when I was in Sanford, I had like an 8-hour layover. I had just flown in from Amsterdam on the way in from Britain. Had to wait 8 hours in Sanford. My mom asked me to send, the flight details and everything. Flight numbers and all that shit. So that she would know when to be picking me up when I got to Cincinnati. And, well, so she she noticed that the airline was called Allegiant, which I'd never flown with, and had not realized that I had booked a ticket with, because what I had thought I booked a ticket with was a place called Frontier Airlines. And so she Googles Allegiant, sends me an email with all the results, and it's all about how Allegiant planes have this tendency to get just barely up in the air and have shit fall off them. Okay, hello. North Park Toyota, okay. Texas. It's Texas. San Isidro. San Benito lo freno. Poi mito. Collar. I'm still tending to think someplace not far from a major body of water, and it did say southwest. Let me have another look at that. Okay, North Park, Southwest High School. Oh well, Southwest High School. That doesn't mean that could be southwest of whatever town this is. Now there's a sticker on there, and it's too faded. Okay, street names. Wheeler and Jarrett. This tells me nothing. Petite. Calaveras, Espanco. Shouts? There's a town within which is the name is misspelt German for like a practical joke. Sour Lake. Anahuac. Okay, I'm just gonna have a punt. Say it's somewhere around here. 153 miles south of San Antonio, which is actually where I first started looking on the map when I started looking at cities. Okay. This actually looks kind of like Peru. But let me see. USA. No hay. Vidrería López. Okay, we are in a Spanish-speaking place. Venta de tarjetas. Entel. Entel. Okay, that could be Chile, actually. Yeah, yeah. Paseña. La Paz, maybe. Bolivia, possibly. Puente Paraguay. Juicio. Oh, I see. El puente de Gilipenses. Tiempo, milanesa, venta tarjeta, Entel, almuerzo familiar, refresco, radio móvil. Okay, those aren't Chilean taxis. Chilean taxis are orange and black. I mean, it could be a minicab. Oh, thank you. Bajado, caja, bajado de caja, cambio de cubeta, retén, cruceta. Okay. Car garage. That is the Moranbong Band. Oh, FTP, that's the universal language right there. Barraca, distrito de madera. Distribución de madera. Oh, distribution. Satucos, asambleísta. Felipa, gobernador. Okay, not Chile. That is none of those. Paz, el proceso. Okay, peace and the process. That is actually making me think that we might be in Colombia. Se lavan autos. Okay, it is a place where cars are washed. See, the DPRK does not DMCA, and also the music they've been putting out for the last 10 years, bar the lyrics, is actually pretty good. Tu voto sirve. Pal pico, weón. Your vote is useful. No tocar el tipnis. It belongs to the NGOs. Felipa, gobernadora. And somebody's added bitch and never. A lively political discourse on the walls. Alcalde. Okay, and there somebody has cambiar para crecer mi estatuto a la asamblea. Bolivia! We are in Bolivia. I was thinking Bolivia from the minute I saw Paseña beer. Yeah, Paseña beer again. Estamos en Bolivia. Yeah, I mean, debate. I've been saying that for years. That there is the reason that TERFs want a debate constantly is because it helps them. It suits them to get their bullshit ideas out there, and there's absolutely nothing to be gained from it. My company is the best beer brewery in Bolivia. Okay. Vamos a La Paz, creo. I mean, it could be Cochabamba. It's also hilly. Fusil, metralla. El alto no se calla. Calvo Iturri, Jurado. Macro Distrito Centro. It looks pretty central. Avenida Bush. Well, you have a couple of zones. You have the highlands, the altiplano. But then it actually ends up flattening out towards the desert here. I mean, you have the desert area, which is very high up, but it's flat. .1 miles, La Paz. Okay. So far, this looks like it could be fucking anywhere. Wonderful institutional architecture. Executive Learning Center. It's spelled C-E-N-T-R-E. Okay, that is our first clue. And bigots, yeah, ignorant people. The thing about ignorant people is sometimes they can surprise you because their problem is just they don't know shit. People who don't know shit can come out either way in the end. But bigots are just looking for the Schulich School of Business. Okay, that's not going to be their ad slogan. They're just looking for whatever justifies their bullshit. For all I know, they're also looking for the Schulich School of Business and the Executive Learning Center. I mean, somebody's got to go to business school, I suppose. Okay, we're at some university. Fairly new building. English-speaking country. Spells things Commonwealth way. This could be Canada. Oh, hold on, there was an... Oh, hold on. Seymour Schulich Building. Certain kinds of shoes, definitely, and hello, Abby. You ever heard of the Schulich School of Business? Yeah, okay, I thought we were in Canada. Because it looks like the US, except they use Commonwealth spellings. Fine Arts Road, Ian McDonald Boulevard. Some of them don't know shit. Others just don't give a shit as long as it justifies whatever bullshit they're on. Archives of Ontario. York University. Okay, we are in the Toronto. And because that map that they use on Geoguessr is so small, we're going to make our first approach here, as always. Yeah. York University, Glendon campus. Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital. Well, except for the part where it tries to be French, and that is actually a really weird visual result. I assume that's who we're talking about, because he decided to have a fight to the death with the most famous mediocre YA novelist in the world, and they didn't have the decency to complete it. York University. Evergreen Brick Works. Well, I hope it does. Casaloma. Oh, yes. Yeah, I noticed that in, I watched one episode of The Republic of Doyle, mostly out of curiosity since it was set in St. John's. And it really does have a very... There's a very Irish feel to the place. LCBO. I miss Toronto. Tim Hortons. They are not indeed. As much as liberals would like to turn them into synonyms. Oh, come on. Where's the main campus of York University? I find it accidentally. Ah, Cabbage Town. Great name for a place. Oh, pedantry is welcome here. North York. Could it be in North York? Is that where the main... York Cemetery? Well, no. That's just an extension of the York brand, but not the one we're after. York University Heights. York University. Arboretum Lane. Ian MacDonald Boulevard. Here we go. There's a lot of Toronto to get through. That is what draws Vosh to it, I think. Because he thinks he's better than everybody. Oh, hell. Okay, it's by the 400 and the 427. The 400 and 407. Oh, come on. This is just so small, it's a pain in the ass. Okay, it's just to the east of 400. Where the okay, 427, and then to the east of 427 is 400. Okay, so where was 427 again? Ah, okay, I was practically in Mississauga. Okay, and where is the business school? Viva Center. the Ponderer, the Sun, Osgood Hall, the Quad at York. Shawarma, oh, that sounds good. Domino's, that doesn't. Ah, fuck it. We'll just say someplace in 938 yards. That's not bad. 3 points short of a perfect score. Okay. I see signs coming up. This is definitely not Toronto. It's Australia. Walatira. Actually, this... Hold on. May have spoken too soon there. Wairoa. This could very well, in fact, be New Zealand. Aotearoa. Mititai Wharf. Waiotira. Brynderwyn. Kapehu Marae. Okay, yes, it is... That is definitely Maori. We are in NZ. That's Madagascar. Waiotira, Mangaraho, Dargaville, Brynderwyn. Winton, Owaka, Waimate, Akaroa, Rolliston, Twizzle. Wonder if the people from Twizzle are called Twizzlers. Palmerston North, knew a guy from there. Well, he went to uni there. Whanganui. Well, let's see. Presence of a marae suggests it's on North Island. Dargaville! Okay, what were the other places we were looking for? Waiotira and Brynderwyn. Maori and very Welsh. Whananaki, Whakapara. When you see WH in Maori, it is pronounced like a soft F. Oh, hell. Now I've lost the one place. One place I had actually. Okay, Dargaville. Whoa. Dargaville's 10 kilometers away. Brynderwyn is 59. Waiotira is 34. Okay. Well, in that case, let's see. Oh, yeah, you're right. Route 12 and Route 12. This is on Route 12. It's actually the only route number. Okay, so, oh, there we go, Route 12. That is certain. It's Route 12, no matter which direction you point in. Okay, Dargaville, Parore. Oh, there was an there was a New Zealand cricketer by that name. Umapere Donnelly's Crossing. Maranui Dargaville. Brynderwyn. Okay. And how far were we from Bryn Darwin? 59 kilometers on Route 12. And only 10 kilometers from Dargaville, so we're 10 kilometers south of Dargaville. Okay. Wrong island, again. $10 kilometers on the Route 12. 123 yards. 5,000. I think that may be the first time I've gotten a full 5,000. $24,198. I am most of the way to level 10. 121 XP. That means that I can go farm XP by beating the crap out of other geoguessing people, I guess. Yeah, in Winterfell. Okay. The time has come to pull some bouncers at some chuds. And I'm thinking, being topical and all, that we might just have to go to Foch. Get that background vocals up. Let me know if you can hear the video okay.
My goodness.
Fucking hell, how does this get on Newsweek? How the fuck? Okay, it's bad enough, I mean, Foch gets on Newsweek.
My goodness. As always, it seems my own community is the center of the pushback that I get. Whew.
Well, that should tell you something.
Oh my god.
He's doing something
It's
new with his hair.
out here. I assume the screen just went black because mere moments before deciding to record this, I decided to turn off Elden Ring. It was making my computer...
Okay, Sean. Okay, Sean's got a good point here. Rowling's whole deal is attracting trans people into the guise of protecting women. Doing har ironic misogyny at them just hands them ammunition and accomplishes nothing positive. That's a good summary of Foch's entire oeuvre. Nothing positive unless you're in the business of starting pissy internet slap fights, I should say. Well, that is his business. Yeah, he's a...
Okay, here's the dealio, folks. First of all, raised over $300,000 for Ukrainian refugees. It's a shame that fact...
Okay, is everyone hearing this crap already? I mean, can everyone hear him all right? Somehow his hair is actually wankier now than it had been. Ah, damn it.
Fact, getting lost a little bit in the, media buzz about my excellent opinions and high-profile disputes, but it's a real thing, and I'm very proud of everyone in my community. Thank you. Taking the day off. Cause I did an all-nighter. Not young anymore, I'm so sorry. But anyway.
Oh, fuck off. Okay. Have a good night. I think he's the second whitest, really.
Let's get to the heart of the matter, okay? J.K. Rowling, not a great person.
Foch, also. When the two of them get in a fight, you kind of hope they both win.
with me on Twitter. You see, there I was, innocently tweeting out misogynistic stuff on
He says this shit ironically. I mean, he's done this so many other times, and yet it is literally exactly what he's fucking doing.
On International Women's Day. All J.K. Rowling had to do was shut...
Ah, shit, my earbuds are protesting against this. Yeah, and the fucked up thing is the tweet that he started out with there. Marshmallows eaten by Rick Santorum. That's a name I haven't heard for in a while. Credit for that. In a blizzard while watching Frozen. Less Weich than Vush. Yeah, I think you got it there. See, the thing is, that first thing he said was actually fairly correct. All J.K. Rowling had to do was shut the fuck up, and she could have been the most uncritically beloved for like a century. That, if he had, and see, all Vosh had to do was shut the fuck up after saying that. And you would have had to say that the asshole has a point. The worst person you know got it right on something.
Shut the F up. I see you, YouTube. And she would have been almost uncritically beloved for like a century. Women be quieter and start apologizing.
Shut the F up. It's your you're afraid to to swear on your fucking stream.
Challenge. Phenomenal stuff. The joke here...
Yeah, that's like the quartering. See, the beard causes this sort of demonetization cowardice, where like the quartering also will, despite being like this fucking rah free speech warrior supposedly, is extremely cowardly about what he will say on stream. It was actually when he was trying to explain why it was cool for Gina Carano to compare white supremacists, the situation of white supremacists in the Trump administration to the situation of Jews during the Holocaust. He was so fucking cowardly about demonetization that he somehow avoided saying Jews, Nazis, or Holocaust, to the extent that the whole thing was just this complete fucking mishmash. And so apparently Foch is doing that as well now.
Being, of course, that a common slogan for women's liberation is women be loud, stop apologizing, a sentiment which I agree with, in most cases, unless you're J.K. Rowling. So,
unless you're a black woman who comes on stream to try to explain something to you, and then you decide to just lie about her.
Ironic misogyny, send tweet, very funny, haha, Voosh problematic, I get it, You think I'm unfunny?
Oh, so... Voosh is... Hold on. I thought Voosh was a thing that you made up, Phoenix. That's people call him that. Or he calls himself that, okay.
Okay, we're not talking about that, all right? The issue I have... Well, no, actually.
You got lots of fucking issues, dude. Maybe you should just take a hiatus and sort them out and then come back.
There are a couple issues I have, but I just want to talk about one. I already know that I've decided on an inflammatory title for this YouTube video, so I just want to...
Gee, I mean, he's just pure clickbait. This is just so... I mean, it's just so transparent at this point. This is just being an asshole in order to generate fucking rage clicks.
I want to present an argument, if that's okay with you guys. See...
That would be a first.
I languish, my life. It's a tragedy. Because
yes, it is.
I care a lot about optics as a concept, but people in my community have, I think, sometimes latched onto that concept in a way that I think is counterproductive. I really...
So the optics obsessed people in the community have bad optics. He's criticizing the meta optics of the optics obsessed people.
Worry that sometimes you guys would have been like, for instance, there are some positions that I and my community hold that seem to run contrary to the attitudes you guys sometimes take towards the necessity for optically good behavior. like the rioting during BLM. There was rioting, and that was bad optics. It's just a thing that tends to happen during protests. But we
It was bad optics. Shut the fuck up. Actually, that was some of the most empowering shit ever. People celebrated that not just in the US, but around the fucking world. I mean, to the extent that the media and the government had to try to make it disempowering by pretending that the whole thing was down to one white guy breaking a window at AutoZone. I mean, that was a bad bad optics for who? What, the cops weren't happy with it? Liberals who stand the cops weren't happy with it? Who gives a fuck? Yeah, I mean, like, what the fuck does that mean? Bad optics. God, this is just such a fucking liberal.
knew, the fine people in my community, right? That, an obsession with optics doesn't mean that you get to allow the other side to hyperfixate on the most optically pernicious elements of whatever kind of advocacy you're engaging in.
Well, which is, okay, let's see, that was a very nice and verbose way of saying that. And the thing is that part of avoiding allowing people, allowing the other side to fixate on fucked up shit that you say, optically pernicious. No, you just said some fucked up shit. You said something bad. You said a thing that sucked. Yeah, the thing is, you try to not say things that suck. There are ways to point out how much JKR sucks without being just fucking misogynistic. Yeah, of course he doesn't give a shit.
Am I comparing my misogynistic tweets to the BLM movement? No.
Well, it sounded like you were, though.
Of course not. The BLM movement was never as influential and effective as my misogyny.
God, he's just, it's like, he delights in being an asshole. That's all this is. He just knows that his thing is being an asshole. And everything else is secondary. He's like, you look at him, he's so fucking tickled by the fact that he's being an asshole that he's found a way to parlay his misogyny against somebody who's got so many fucking things you can say about her that aren't misogynistic and are valid, into being kind of fucking racist about BLM.
Listen, the BLM movement and my misogynistic tweets led to about the same amount of police defunding, okay? In that respect, at least, there's a comparison.
Yeah, you don't get to make that fucking joke when you tried to come up with the fucking revolutionary argument for standing Biden. The guy who just got up in his like State of the Union speech and said that the cops need even more fucking money. Shut the fuck up. Yeah, I mean, he definitely needs to take the word out of his mouth.
I can't swear at YouTube. Okay, let's be serious for a second, okay? So, the issue I have is that there are a ton of people on the left in my community and elsewise that are hand-raising.
Yeah, okay, see, there's an interesting example of comma usage, because that could be read correctly as separating the left from his community, which I think is actually valid. I don't think his community would fit my definition of leftists. I don't think it's an ideological definition. I don't just sort of cut out assholes. But yeah, but he may be describing, but that could also be taken as meaning that he is saying that the left is his community, in which case it shouldn't be. I mean, you've got way too much space in it right now, but I mean, it really shouldn't be.
Over this. There are people who are saying stuff like, my misogyny is some kind of setup to throw trans people under the bus by making the movement look bad.
And considering that you have done some transphobic shit in the past, and considering that you have actually thrown marginalized people under the bus for your own benefit because you just don't give a shit about any of this because it's all just academic to you, that is an interpretation that actually seems kind of reasonable, actually.
That's psychotic, of course. There are people in my community and in the left broadly who are saying, wow, Vosh really messed up here, really messed the optics up on this one, which is a little weird to me because
That's not what people in my community were saying. People in my community were saying things like, when Vosh and JKR fight, you hope they both die. Which is a paraphrase of an old Polish proverb, except the Polish proverb is when you see two fighters, spiders
people seem
fight.
to be acting as though I was being misogynistic directly to J.K. Rowling as opposed to tweeting about the billionaire author just indirectly, right? Like, just to be clear on what we're talking about here, we are just talking about tweets thrown into the ether, which she screenshotted. So, not.
Well, yes, but the point is you said these things, and you're not denying. See, like, the only way that you would have any kind of point here is if she made up that second one. Except, no, I mean, because he didn't say anything about JKR in that one. He says, women be quieter and start apologizing challenge. That's not specifically directed at any one person. That's directed at women as a whole. I mean, there's absolutely no fucking excuse for that thing.
Not to say that doesn't mean it's not misogynistic or whatever, but there are people in my subreddit who are like,
What gets me about this, Jesus Christ. I mean, this is like really making my blood pressure go up because, see, it would be one thing. You know, I'm sort of prepared for him to say, oh, no, that wasn't misogynistic, which, of course, it is misogynistic. But for him to actually, like, come right out and say, yeah, this is misogynistic, and not just apologize, not be... I mean, that's so on-brand, it hurts.
where was that thread? Because I scroll through it, right? Where it was like, Vosh really messed up the optics on this one. He really couldn't have handled this one worse. Oh, yeah. Vosh handled the...
Oh, well, yeah, he could have handled it worse. He could have, like, endorsed Nazi shit like he did a couple of weeks ago. He could have endorsed white nationalist talking points in order to defend colonialism like he did a couple of weeks before that. I mean, he could have fucked this up worse. But, I mean, fucking it up, that actually kind of implies that it was a mistake, that it wasn't what he was going for, and I don't see any proof of that. Certainly the way he's acting now does not suggest that this was in any way unintended on his part. He was deliberately being misogynistic. He's being quite open about it.
J.K. Rowling drama poorly. I don't know how I could handle it poorly because there wasn't really drama. I just tweeted something and then she screenshotted it, you know? Like, they're presupposing her screenshotting it as though that was something I anticipated. Like, can you imagine?
Wait, what, you didn't anticipate it? You tweeted something about somebody who is known to search her name often in order to inject herself into discussions and screenshot anything that she can use in order to present herself as the victim, and you didn't know she was gonna fucking screenshot it, dude?
Imagine if everything we all said or did was subjected to the optical scrutiny of being screenshotted by somebody with 14 million Twitter followers. Like imagine any...
And also, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? I mean, that isn't even the issue. It isn't about whether J.K. Rowling was going to screenshot it or not. It was misogynistic regardless of whether it was observed by a billionaire mediocre YA author or not. It was misogynistic the minute you crapped it out into the ether. It was inherently misogynistic. Who gives a shit whether it was seen by JKR or not? Yeah, that makes it worse because it allows her to sort of play the victim, which she does love to do. That wasn't good. But even if she hadn't seen it, even if he had done the sensible thing and blocked her in the first place, like lots of people have done, then that still would be fucked up.
Time anyone on the left posts anything like, oh, well, you better watch out. You might get screenshotted by J.K. Rowling. That'd be a little silly. I'll just lay out my points right here, okay? I think that the people who are hand-wringing over this are borderline defending J.K. Rowling by implication.
No, see, the thing is, if you just said the one thing, probably nobody would be saying anything. And if anything, people would have been complaining because an asshole like Vosh said something that's actually kind of just valid. And it's kind of annoying when somebody like that has a point. If he had just said the first thing, there would be none of this. There would be no objections at all, except from fucking JKR, because, I mean, she's full of shit. And her stands, they would, of course, complain about it, but fuck them. Nobody would have given a shit about that. It would have been, like, the first unproblematic thing I've seen this motherfucker ever fucking tweet, actually. If he had just stuck with the first thing. But then he said, then he follows it up with some misogynistic shit. I mean, the issue isn't the optics. The issue is you are an asshole.
So the people who are fretting over this are essentially siding with the transphobe, either because
we're
they're
not.
optics or civility politics brained in a very liberal fashion. Or
This isn't about fucking civility politics. It's about not being misogynistic. Not being misogynistic is just default a good thing. That isn't about civility politics. It isn't about fucking optics. It is about you shouldn't do that. That is a thing you shouldn't do. Even if nobody's watching at all, you shouldn't do it.
or because they hate me so much that they have to adopt any position which allows them to condemn me. And it may seem...
Well, yeah, I know, because it is so hard. I mean, it takes such acrobatics to find an angle from which you can condemn him for saying women need to shut the fuck up and apologize. I mean, that really takes a lot of argumentative effort. Isn't he supposed to be a tactical genius? I mean, doesn't he have a standard issue N-word ready? Yeah, he thinks he's fucking Clausewitz here.
Seems self-centered to say that, but like there's a lot of that on the left. God. Anyway, I'll lay the arguments out here, okay? There are a ton of edgy shit posters on the left, like a lot of them.
Oh, fuck, my earphones are...
Oftentimes they say stuff which, optically speaking, is as bad or worse than some innocuous misogynistic shitpost.
Innocuous misogynistic shitpost? Yeah, I mean, what gets me is the positions that he has laid out of his critics. Not one of them, that he won't acknowledge that anyone just objects to the fact that he said something misogynistic in any context at all. Yeah, he totally brings this on himself. I think he actually wants to bring this on himself.
And I feel like if they got targeted by Rowling, we wouldn't be hand-wringing like this. Like, in ContraPoints'
Yeah, because that would be different. That would be different. If TERFs target somebody, then, TERFs suck. You have to call out the fact that TERFs are targeting people. But this guy, I mean, it is just amazing. He just does not give a shit about anything. He's like Peter Tatchell. He's an American Peter Tatchell. You know Peter Tatchell? British gay activist who has the dubious distinction of his organization's gay rights advocacy in Africa was so bad that African LGBT rights advocates from across the continent signed an open letter begging European gay LGBT rights activists to stop working with him because he was ruining their efforts. I mean, this is like a new generation fucking Peter Tatchell.
video on J.K. Rowling, she went over tweets of people being like really aggressive towards J.K. Rowling, like death threats and stuff, you know? And while Contra acknowledged that these were like harmful and bad, you know, she didn't really seem to want to focus the video on a condemnation of that behavior because, as she stressed, right, J.K. Rowling is a billionaire with incredible social power.
Yeah, and plus the thing is that those death threats, first of all, we have to question whether they're actually legit. They're often from anonymous accounts nobody's fucking heard of. Nobody knows. I mean, of course, TERFs always claim that these sorts of death threats and everything, it's all coming from the trans community or whatever. And they never provide any evidence for it. They usually don't even offer screenshots. But here's the difference. There's a bit of a difference because we know who said the misogynistic shit there. He admits that he said the misogynistic shit there, and he thinks it's cool that he said the misogynistic shit there. Oh, an example that he came up with.
In a way, you're really doing her a favor by pretending that tweeting something problematic with her name involved in it is somehow a concession given to her point. Like, let me give you guys a hint, all right? J.K. Rowling doesn't
That is not the objection, though.
care about misogyny. You can read her books. They're not exactly, like, super progressive. She doesn't
Yeah, and Foch clearly doesn't care about it either, or he wouldn't have done that.
care. She cares about trans people and oppressing them. That's the thing she cares about. And this whole
But she's also big into racism. I mean, she's full of racial fucking stereotypes in her books.
TERF movement is really just a conservative psyop with a very small minority of second-wave feminists being signal boosted by conservative media.
Okay, he's not wrong there, as much as it pains me to say that. Yeah, there are ways. In fact, I mean, the first thing he said about how she just shut the fuck up, she would have gone into history uncritically beloved, or almost uncritically. That wasn't really wrong. That her reputation was practically unblemished in the media. She was not a controversial figure until she decided to, not a controversial figure really in sort of the mainstream anyway, until she decided to just make trans rights the hill she died on. It is so easy to say bad things about and criticize JKR without being misogynistic. Millions of people manage it every day. I've never had to resort to misogyny there. There's absolutely no reason to.
Are there, like, mainstream feminist, like, groups that are advocating for TERF stuff? Some, yeah, but overwhelmingly, when J.K. Rowling...
Actually, thinking about it, there really aren't mainstream feminist groups advocating for TERF stuff. Every single one of those groups, it's really kind of interesting because a lot of them just popped up out of nowhere a couple of years ago. And then when you start looking into them, it turns out that often they have very open ties. And this is specifically, I'm talking about the British ones, as much, if not more, than the U.S. ones, have very close ties to U.S. Christian right organizations. I mean, the same is true. You see that in the U.S. as well. Like James Dobson bankrolled something called the Women's Liberation Front, which does nothing but join evangelical right-wing organizations in their anti-trans rights litigation. I can't think of a single mainstream feminist organization that is actually joining. Some of them aren't condemning it as much as they ought to, but I haven't seen any, like, mainstream established feminist organization that actually joined in this shit.
Says something transphobic and gets retweeted, signal boosted, has videos made about them. It's from conservatives, people who are often fascists. I mean, a lot of these people think women should be barefoot and pregnant. J.K. Rowling doesn't denounce the support because J.K. Rowling doesn't care that it's coming from them. She cares...
Yeah, who gives a shit? This isn't what we're talking about. Yeah, all this stuff is valid. That's what he's saying is true. But who gives a shit? The issue is he said something misogynistic. There was no good reason for him to do it. It wasn't the slightest bit ironic. And now he's trying to act like this was somehow we should thank him for it? Yeah.
It's about support for her transphobia. So, a couple of points to that effect. First of all, conservatives don't care about misogyny.
Yeah, that's something they have in common with Foch. Also, conservatives, like Foch, tend to be very pro-colonialism, and they like Biden.
The only reason they prop up TERFs is because, well, it's the same reason they prop up Candace Owens, right? And Candace Owens accuses the Democrats of being racist, while herself never criticizing or condemning the much more overt racism from the Republicans. It's a shield. It's a way of using...
Well, see, that's a good term here, because he's changing the subject as a shield. rather than showing the slightest bit of fucking chagrin. I mean, has he ever apologized for anything? I've watched him now say all sorts of fucked up shit. Racist, misogynistic, he's been pretty heavily anti-Semitic a few times. He, openly stands NATO. He, literally, recently had a tweet about, unironically talking about anarcho-NATOism. Yeah, I mean, he's just a bad take factory. And I don't know of any time he has actually admitted that he fucked up and apologized and tried to get better. It's and the people he slags off do that. Because it's just, I mean, it's not even fucking praxis, it's just being a decent person.
Woke language to form a wedge against, progressive politics, a way of separating people by invoking contrary language to defend a conservative talking point. The problem with that, in terms of condemning me for optics, is that conservatives
Nobody's condemning you for optics, you dickhead.
Care about misogyny. Conservatives care about degeneracy. Or to put it another way, if J.K. Rowling had found a tweet being critical of her, and then had screenshotted it and then followed that up with the Avi, the profile picture of that Twitter user, and it was like a trans person with 18 septum piercings, pink hair, or whatever else.
My headphones cut out. How did he use AAVE wrong there? I missed 3 seconds of what he was saying. Is the Bluetooth on this is sometimes a little bit unreliable. I haven't completely worked that one out.
That optically would have been as bad or worse from her side of the aisle than me being misogynistic.
Who gives a shit? That doesn't mean you should do it. That doesn't mean it's okay.
Doe, trans deer. Recently, Doe had that exact treatment delivered to it by a conservative radio host.
Oh, yes, misusing woke. I mean, these days, it's been years since I've heard anything but right-wingers and people who are pretending not to be right-wingers even use the word woke. They seem to have shat over that term so much that nobody, I mean, it was weird because it was there were a few years when I remember, there were a lot of, particularly from black leftists, memes using the word woke in a positive way. And then at some point that just stopped. And it was just all white supremacists and assholes like this who were using it as a negative term.
I wonder if I could find that on Twitter, where Doe was saying, essentially, not that I endorse this perspective, of course, Doe was essentially saying that conservative politicians should fear for their life. What a horrible thing to say about people trying to take away.
Not the same thing at all. It's one thing for somebody to, I mean, it's one thing for somebody to say that a bunch of, white supremacist, misogynistic fucking bigots who have played a key role in the unnecessary, preventable deaths of hundreds of thousands of people in this country and millions around the world just in the past few decades. It's one thing to say maybe you should be a little bit more careful about where you say that. And that's a totally different thing than just fucking say women should shut the fuck up and apologize. That is not the same thing. I mean, he's trying to make this all about optics so he can compare it to things like that. But it's not. Nobody's criticizing it for the. I mean, assholes might be, but most people seem to just be criticizing it because the substance of it was just objectively bad.
Others, fundamental human rights. I know it's awful. If you could ever believe such a horrible thing being said or believed, but here, there, I found it. Look at that. CC, right here. See, Doe's making just a terrible, terrible point. So bad, so mean. And then there's a picture of Doe, who, from the conservative dynamic, certainly does look like a degenerate. Love it, not a criticism. To conservatives, that is as, if not far more, of an optics failing, then
The issue is not, do conservatives not like this? See, the issue here, actually, it's worse when you say something that conservatives do like. Like, a lot of conservatives probably think it's kind of cool for somebody to say that women should learn to shut the fuck up and apologize more. A lot of right wingers would be quite on side with that. That's not the issue. Nobody gives a fuck if it offends right wingers. That's cool. Offending right wingers is fine. Nobody who's anybody is objecting to that. The issue here is that you told, half the fucking population to shut the fuck up. And I believe, was that on... He did this on International Working Women's Day, didn't he?
Me just posting something misogynistic. A person making a solid criticism of conservatives while being fat, that's an optics failure. While being like ugly, that's an optics failure. Guys, if you defend the rights of trans children, there are conservatives right now saying you should be thrown in jail for providing medical aid to them or assisting in the providing of medical.
God, he is really just completely changing the subject at this point. Because none of this has anything to do with him saying something misogynistic on Twitter for the fucking clicks.
Aid to them as prescribed by real doctors. They want to pass laws against this. Do conservatives want to pass laws against being misogynistic on Twitter? No. So if you're seriously out here ringing...
Who gives a shit? See, the fact that conservatives probably don't object to it, that doesn't make it good. That actually is a good sign that you said something bad, actually. Yeah, God. I mean, he is just... Yeah. No one's rights shall be defended unless Vosh can pocket some cash off of it.
Your hands over how, well, Vosh is giving them ammunition for their arguments by being... No,
that's not what people are saying. People are saying Vosh is a fucking misogynist, and he's doubled down on it because he's also a prick.
You're falling for it. You're falling for the framework they're constructing. The framework they're constructing is one in which they attempt to convince people that misogyny is the thing they actually care about. It's not.
No, see, it's not there. No one, of course, they don't give a shit about misogyny. We care about misogyny. People who don't suck care about misogyny, and you did misogyny there. 'Cause you suck.
Not, and they don't. So, don't fall for the bait by playing...
Fall for the bait. Don't fall for the bait and insist on holding me accountable. It's see, when you hold him accountable, it's falling for the bait. And the clock, which does not understand optics at all, I have to say, has decided to show that it is 1 o'clock, so it is time to call it a night. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. I'm quite glad that you were there to suffer through that shit with me. See you same time tomorrow. Good night and good luck to all of you.